it can make you feel powerless, as though when the other shoe drops, you have no second chance. That's one thing I wish too. When people get something wrong as a crowd, we're kind of like the French Revolution. We're like, take him to the guillotine. He finally fucked up. His head's coming off. And like, people make mistakes. People have bad takes.
How to be patient.
Welcome back to How to Be Patient, the podcast where Preston is flying solo for the first time ever. It's a solo episode with Preston and I have a guest. But before we get into the guest, so I'll take a moment and appreciate Margaret being on vacation right now. So if you're watching the video version, we're overlaying this beautiful photo of Margaret in Belize. I think she's on a swing or something. I don't know. I'm just getting like so jealous that it's hard for me to make out any specific details. She was actually supposed to send us a video, but I think she's vacationing so hard that she's like, honestly, guys, the photo's the best that's going to happen. And I'm glad we got anything. You know, because I'm pretty sure Margaret's completely converted to island time. And I really hope those Mai Tais are hitting. And we'll do the best to hold it down here in podcast land. So we have this wonderful guest. His name is Amin. We're going to introduce him in a moment here. He is whyamino, I believe, on Instagram or TikTok. Essentially, he made a couple series of videos, which we're going to play right now.
Fuck going on with you, boy? Yeah.
What got you coming in today, twin? You say your stomach hurt, bro? Yeah, does it go anywhere? It's like a sharp pain from the back.
Pause, gang.
We can take care of that for you, though. You said wear my scrub pants? Twin, this shit
Gallery department, boy, this shit a rat. So where you think? Beloved, we finna take care of you, beloved.
Don't even worry, I already put the orders in, my boy. The orders already in, bro. They already finna come draw your blood, bro. Bro, you secure, bro.
We locked in like this. I'ma make sure you come out good, bro. We too locked in, boy. Hey, up.
Can I get you a perk? Twin, I am not finna get you no perk, gang. Chill out, my boy. On my mama, Slime. On my mama, you's not getting no perk, Slime.
So I know we cut it in post, but I'm still laughing because it's funny to even think about these. It's really this fun series describing the different stereotypes of doctors engaging with patient populations. So it got a little bit of excitement, but also got some backlash. And that's kind of the purpose of today's podcast. And so without further ado, let's get into the discussion with Amin.
Sometimes emotion regulation looks like sensory comfort. And for all of my sensory comforts, I, like Preston is showing on the video right now, use Cozy Earth blankets, comforters, and socks. What do you use to comfort yourself, Preston?
I mean, I would show you the socks that I'm wearing, but I'm too comfy under this Cozy Earth cuddle blanket to get up. I'm actually not sure if I'll ever get up again. I might just live here.
Well, we'll talk about that later. But what you can trust is that there's 100 sleep guarantee to be able to return any products that aren't fitting with you, but we think you probably won't make many returns. And there's a 10-year guarantee.
So use our code PATIENT at cozyearth.com and make sure you include us in the post-purchase survey because we did send you.
And in the meantime, we wish you a lot of emotion regulation. You're going to need it for the rest of this episode.
Or at least a blanket. Well, welcome back to How to Be Patient. I am flying solo today because Margaret is currently in Belize. So I'm joined actually by a temporary co-host or a guest. This is Amin.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. And Amin, I first came across your stuff when you were doing this TikTok series. And I noticed you had a pretty small page. I felt like almost like a venture capitalist investing early with some of your really high quality videos, which they did blow up. And I guess just to kind of give a little bit of summary, I have my impression of it, but I kind of want to hear like what your inspiration was for posting on TikTok and what's your handle again? Is it whyamino? On TikTok?
So on Instagram, it's whyamino. On TikTok, it's Amino Live with 2 eyes. And as far as inspiration, right, for why I post TikTok videos, I feel like growing up, I've always been a creative person, right? Just naturally in anything I do, I've always been a creative person. When I got to college, I went to UCR, so University of California, Riverside for my undergrad. A couple of my friends had, some music equipment at their house. And I would go over and I just started, kind of making music for fun. And one thing I had realized was when I was making music, I was like, why don't I sound good? Not, in terms of my music being good or whatnot, that's out of the picture. Just sonically, why don't I sound good? Why does Drake sound like the way he does and I don't? Right. So through that, I just started diving into it through YouTube, online, whatever I could find. I just started to figure out, how do you make music
It's like
sound good?
it's a mixer, right? Like
Mhm.
in FL
Yeah.
Studio, there's certain like packages you can buy to sound more like Post Malone or Drake. Is that just kind of the
Exactly.
rabbit hole you found yourself in? Okay,
Exactly, right? So
interesting.
I found myself in the mixing rabbit hole. And I went to college in 2019, so 2020 came around and we all got sent home. I was, the COVID class. So I was at home doing nothing but, keeping up with my studies. And then what else did I have? My computer. So then I just started looking into mixing more and learning about things more. And I would do it every single day. Whether I was eating food, I was watching a mixing video. Or if I was just chilling in bed, I was watching a mixing video. And I had no idea what anything meant. Like, these guys were saying stuff that, like, it sounded like rocket science. But just by watching, and, like, applying things here and there, I started to do it. It started to make sense. I started to make things sound good. I started to work with people in my city. Later on, once COVID restrictions kind of started going down a little bit, word got around. Some people from out of state heard about me. They came. I worked with them. They enjoyed my work. And then I started going across the country for it. So it was amazing. Fast forward, we can get into my life in music, a little bit later. But fast forward, I want to go to med school. I still do music for fun, but I still wanted a way to, like, express myself creatively. I've always been, I feel like.
And how many years were you in music now before you went to med school?
So let's see, 2019 to 2024, 5 years.
So yeah, half a decade, fully invested in music.
Yeah.
I guess almost like instead of a language immersion program, you're in a mixing immersion program.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're trying to find a way to unify this artistic interest with your new career. And to clarify, you're a MS1, is that right?
Yeah. So MS1 or OMS1, I'm actually a DO student.
Okay.
And this is one thing I should clarify. In undergrad, I was a bio major. So while I was doing music, I balanced music and, undergraduate biology. Pre-med was like the thing from the jump. That makes sense? It's just that I found music during college or university, kind of was like, I don't need to do medicine anymore. I really like doing this. I'm really good at it. To then later on, after I graduated, being like, I still want to be a doctor. Right. And then, yeah, as far as the TikTok videos go, that's kind of where a little bit of the motivation comes from, is just that artistic drive, that creative drive that I feel like I naturally have. And, just a way to express myself. And from there, while I was in the app cycle, I started to kind of make these videos, just occasionally. And yes, since then, I've just been making videos. I was making a lot before med school started. Now that I'm in med school, it's kind of slowed down a little bit. But, whenever I get an idea, I'll jot something down.
I noticed you have a lot of different videos, but the ones that I think resonated the most with me and kind of, I think, drew a lot of attention to your page were when you basically said, practicing for when I do residency in X place. And then you almost kind of launch into an accent and you take on the mannerisms of, I think in some ways, the stereotypes of people are there, but also in a way that I think is like endearing and actually like validating to people that are like from that culture. I think you did one for Ottawa. I've never been to Ottawa, but the people in the comments seem to resonate a lot with the work that you were doing. And I thought it was really interesting. So I think someone called you a cultural anthropologist. So we all have things we want to express. I express many different things on my page. I guess through that series, what was one part of yourself that you were kind of hoping to get at or to articulate?
I think I feel like I'm a pretty diverse person. I feel like growing up, I've been around a lot. I've kind of moved around like a decent amount. Like, I was born in Minnesota, super random, right? I lived in Oregon up until about the 5th grade. I moved to California from there. But in that time, in between living in Oregon from like the 1st to the 5th grade, I lived in Virginia for a little bit, and then I lived in Canada for a little bit, Montreal, French-speaking part of Canada, right? And then came down in California. And, you know, when I was living in California, when I was doing music, like I said, it took me to a lot of places. I went to Atlanta for the first time. I went to New York for the first time. I went to Chicago, Miami, um, all these places that have such a rich history in music. Wherever music was, for lack of better words, popping, that's where you could find me because that's where the work was. So I feel like what I was trying to get out with that video was one, like I feel my diversity, right? My ability to adapt in new places just because of the fact that I've been to so many new places with so many different crowds. And as far as the objective of that video, while it being funny, was kind of like that patient-physician trust relationship that I feel like is, because of outside circumstances, kind of lacking in healthcare, right? I see it with my own parents because I'm from Algeria, so we're not from the United States. So it was something that I wanted to shine light in, with comedy, because that's the type of person I am. I joke about everything. I'm very optimistic. It's everything I put it in the light, not the dark.
Comedy at its core is always a spotlight. And in a way, it allows us to look at the hard parts of society without that same, I guess, painful reflex that you get. People are like, don't make me look at this. But if it's through the lens of comedy, like it's okay. And you can kind of digest it more. One thing that kind of struck me actually watching that was how different cultures are between, like, I guess the treating class and the treated class within healthcare and patients. So, I mean, like I'm wearing my like business, like fitted, like business casual, white collar looking ass shirt right now. And even like other white people, like you feel this kind of like rigid distance between you. And that's often furthered by the language that you use. And ultimately, and especially for me in psychiatry at its core, the patient-provider relationship is one of mutual trust, I guess. And so one thing I think you're kind of describing or getting at, and maybe this is something you'll probably learn a lot more about once you get into the clinical rotations and start actually practicing residency, is how important that relationship is. And that sometimes at the expense of traditional professionalism, you can build that rapport and actually provide better care to that patient.
No, I definitely agree. I think one way that I've thought about it almost is the patient kind of there's a moment where when they realize like, oh, this guy's in touch, depending on, or a physician that's so out of touch, like you're so out of touch with who I am, where I come from, what's my day to day. Does that make sense? And
yeah,
even like mentioning, like a meme that's, viral on TikTok that a patient would probably have seen that meme. Like, you look at the patient, you're like, okay, younger patient, probably on TikTok, probably seen this meme. If I somehow mention it, well, walls just come down, right?
Mm-hmm. You're a person. I see you in a way I couldn't before. Yeah, I had a patient the other day ask me if I could put an order in the hospital, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I got you." And they replied, they go like this. They're like, "Yeah, that's my doctor." And the nurses are like, "What is she doing towards you?" And I was like, "Oh, it's tea. She's happy to put the order in. Like, there's nothing else to it. Um, Whereas like a lot of people, it kind of goes right over their head. And even I think just like slang in of itself, like that's, I'm bringing the term linguistics, but it's a great way to signal to someone that you're within the same cultural group or class.
Yeah.
And I guess if we can use some of your clips at some point, because they're actually not on your page. I think you took most of them down, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately.
But yeah, it sounds like you had a lot of positive or altruistic reasons for doing this. In a way, it kind of unites your experience in music where what sounds like music was your thread through these different cultures. And then you're combining that with healthcare. Like you have knowledge of these communities that other, traditional people in healthcare don't have. So it got a lot of really positive responses, but it sounds like it got some negative responses too. What happened there?
Well, yeah, I mean, my school notified me that they'd received complaints from who I'm not sure whether those were local or, not local. There wasn't much detail around, the complaints, just that it was insensitive to stereotypes. To which, at the end of the day, comedy, you can't please everyone, right? And you also sometimes jokes can be at the expense of something or someone, and that's something obviously we never want. That's something that's definitely wasn't my goal at all, right? Um, but unfortunately, something being at the expense of someone else isn't okay, and it comes to the point where it's kind of like the image, whether it's my image or the image of the school, right? And if things got back to the school, I can't risk their image. I can risk my image as much as I want. That's my image to risk, and if I lose opportunities because of that, that's on me. But it's the same thing that I've spoke about before with others, where it's like, okay, there's a world where I get into a residency interview and they're like, "Oh, I've seen this guy on TikTok." Hell no. You know what I mean? No. There's a world where I get into a residency interview and they're like, "Whoa, I've seen your videos. You're hilarious." And I don't even, then I have an unfair advantage against everyone around me because I'm already known. Then the interview's already cool. We're talking, we're joking around. So it's kind of a give and take. Um, but as far as if certain people really feel, like I'm coming at them with my content, that's something I never want to do. And if that's the case, then I just have to pivot and do something else that's more inclusive.
I thought your content was funny, and also I can see where the complaints are coming from, even if I don't necessarily agree with them. I wonder if there's a way to rewrite that skit that maintains its humor without stepping on toes. And I don't even know if that's possible. I think sometimes the more, I don't know, I guess blunt you are in comedy, like the better the message is delivered, but sometimes like it's going to ultimately lead to someone being offended.
Yeah.
Even in my comedy, so around my fourth year when I started posting, I kind of ran into a similar thing. I started out just kind of whatever I felt like talking about, I was just letting loose. And I've definitely watered it down, and maybe even subconsciously in a hope of like not even pleasing the audience, but avoiding conflict. And it sounds like this is kind of what happened here. You were, sounds like, surprised that some people took it as offensive, which wasn't your intent. And then in hopes of avoiding conflict from people complaining to the school, and also like representing your school, you ultimately kind of have like corrected course. I know you're still posting, but I guess to engage this hypothetical, like how would you carve something like this going forward to both accomplish that goal and maybe not step on toes?
It's hard. It's hard because well, first of all, controversy draws attention. So you want a video to go up, make something controversial, first of all. Second of all, my thoughts about my video, I don't like, yes, you could say stereotypes. Yes, you could say it's offensive, but I don't remember accents, being something that's of a particular race. It's a particular group of people. It's an accent. If you go to Atlanta, that's how people over there talk. If you go to New York, people over there talk a certain way. If you go to Toronto, people over there talk a certain way. In California, we talk a certain way. Everyone talks a certain way somewhere. If my question was now is, if let's say I made like one like in the UK and I start talking in a British accent, is that stereotypical, or does everyone in the UK have that accent? So to me, like slang, I don't think is something that you can attack. But everyone has their own feelings on it. Those are just how I feel, and I don't know if you think the same way.
Yeah, I guess it's interesting to me. Maybe we're getting too meta about this, but you said that it was negative because it's propagating stereotypes. I guess I don't know if that's bad in and of itself. Like, is that a negative thing? Because by satirically enhancing a stereotype, you can draw attention to it, right? Whether it's a negative one. And I think some people say, well, you must be like from that group in order to do that, or something, just so that you're of good intention. But also, I think like the stereotypes that you're playing into, I think independent of themselves, called into account the differences in culture between, medicine, or the people that traditionally go into medicine, the people in like the groups that they're caring for. Because like, while a doctor may be almost homogenous in how we like picture them acting in the clinic, or have these like stereotyped ideas of a doctor, right? the patient is going to be very different in Atlanta and in Canada and in California and in Nevada. And like I think that's what that series captured, is like how different the cultures are around there. And also like how you need to like cater to those things. Like I think I guess what I saw was like someone who was studying the culture that they were planning to practice in, and then using that to be a better doctor who could engage with the population. Those are only positive things to me.
Yeah.
And like I practice in North Carolina, or I guess I did med school in North Carolina. I grew up in Colorado originally. And the things, like I started saying like Wallaby or bless her heart, and you start bringing out the stuff like that, like people warm up to you a little bit, you talk to them about NASCAR, and you're bringing up, the apple crisp that you're going to make, and then collard greens, and like, people engage with you more. Like it's all just like about like paying attention to the population that you're treating. And I think that's like why I resonate with those comments, that you're like a cultural anthropologist, and also could acknowledge that people were frustrated with like the amplification or amplifying stereotypes.
I think one of the, like, if you look at it like to the core of what it is, remember growing up, like one of the strongest things in making friends was what? Commonalities. If you had commonalities with someone, you skipped, the barriers to making friends tenfold. If you liked soccer and your boy liked soccer, you guys are automatically friends. So I think that's that same concept kind of coming again, right? Whether it's an accident, like you said, talking about NASCAR, or just speaking in the same way. I feel like it definitely does something.
And even like me practicing as a psychiatrist, or I guess I'm PGY 3 in psychiatry. We had Mark Mullen here on the podcast earlier, and he said, like, depending on the population, sometimes like it's almost like breaking the seal. Like if the patient cusses first, then I'll cuss next. It's like, there can be something very validating to being in a room with the patient. They're like, this is fucking stupid. And you're like, it fucking is. Even that, like, it's enough it cuts the air. It breaks this plexiglass of professionalism and lets them be more open with you. So I've thought about finding a name for it. I guess the cussing specifically, almost like it's like professionally directed unprofessionalism, like intentional unprofessionalism. Because like while profanity may be unprofessional in and of itself, considered as such, building a strong rapport with the patient, I would argue, is a very professional thing to do in therapeutics. So I don't know, it's an interesting concept. Where do you find yourself going forward with social media? Do you continue seeing this as a place to just express yourself? Do you have plans for weaving this into your career? Like, what was your response to this and how to direct it?
Before I jump into that, just to answer your question before, is how do I circumvent, right, with social media? Honest to God, I'm not too sure. The way I make videos is dumb ideas come into my head, and then I'll go film it real quick. And then I like kind of think, okay, is this crazy? Yes or no? But so probably I would think about it more. Probably I would, kind of reach out to some close friends before I upload videos and just be like, hey, what do you guys think? Like, can this be taken any way at all? And in terms of what I see myself doing with social media, I'd like to continue posting. I'd like to continue making healthcare related content. People have told me like, oh, why don't you upload, day in the life videos or something else like med students do? But I was like, well, yeah, other people do that. That's the problem, right? I was like, the videos I make is my niche, right? There's not too many, medicine influencers that come here and kind of bring a funny side to medicine, or bring, something that's a little more outside the box than how I studied for step 1, day in the life of a med student, like how to get research. Like, come on, bro. Like, it's getting boring at this point. Like, let's spice it up a little bit, right? That's kind of what I want to do. I want to bring joy to medicine. There's so many people that don't understand that, like, they think hospitals are so serious. You go into a hospital, all the faculty in there, or not the faculty, just the employees in there, whether it's physicians, nurses, pharmacists, everyone's joking around. Everyone, it's very lighthearted, when it can be, right? Obviously. But yeah, I just want to kind of bring that and kind of show it to the people that not everyone in healthcare is so serious. You don't have to be like, get ready for a super serious conversation every time you go to see a physician. Like, it can be, it can be lighthearted. It can be it can be a good experience. I remember growing up, every time I saw a doctor, I would be excited, because my my primary care physician was such a funny guy, such a nice guy, right? Moved to California, I got a new person. They weren't as much. And I didn't like coming to the doctors as much. But growing up, I liked coming to the doctors.
So you moved to the new guy was bombing. He didn't have a type 5.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, medicine is a performance in a lot of ways. Maybe not necessarily around your colleagues. I mean, everything's a performance. That asterisk aside, but you play a character when you get into the room and you're engaging with the patient. And you have to control your affect, adjust what emotions you want to express, and find a way to relate to them. So, like, those are the things that you hope to cast light on. I find it funny, too, like you mentioned, the day in the life, how I studied for step 1. Here are the top 5 things that got me through, like, my Anki deck. It's almost like social media had this kind of taboo side of it, and then a few trailblazers did it in a very safe way. And then that became the safe thing to do. So now it's like, if I'm like a very vanilla, well-respected, I don't do anything don't color outside the line social media influencer, then it can be a positive part of my career. Like, people don't necessarily look down on it just for its own sake, but it just kind of becomes like another layer on top of things. What do you wish Med Talk looked like?
Because of the nature of medicine, I feel like it's very hierarchical, right? It's very like, it matters what the people above you think, and it matters. It's kind of constricting. I feel like even if certain students, maybe some of those day in the life TikTokers, maybe they're really funny. Maybe they are really funny, and maybe they wish they could post that content, but they're too scared to kind of step out of those boundaries and, kind of test the waters a little bit. So yeah, I wish there was a little less judgmental, jumping to conclusions, cancellation, if you want to call it, whatever the case may be.
It can make you feel powerless.
Yeah.
And
I think that's the perfect word.
When the other shoe drops, you have no second chance.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing I wish too, is that when people get something wrong as a crowd, we're kind of like the French Revolution. We're like, take him to the guillotine.
Yeah.
He finally fucked up. Like, his head's coming off. And like, people make mistakes. People have bad takes. And I'm not saying, like, excuse everything. Like, some things are unforgivable. But ultimately, like, if our goal is to try to like correct people and like make us all better as a group, like, I think just like more forgiveness and grace would be so nice.
Yeah. But I think that's the nature of content or fame or being in the spotlight, because you're almost sometimes, in some cases, right, like not viewed as human, right? You're like almost just viewed as a thing. Like, oh, this guy, like, he makes videos, right? But people forget, like, oh, he's a real human being. He plays Call of Duty, he goes to the gym. He does normal things. He can mess up just like you can. But because, everyone knows this person and they're successful and whatever the case may be, like, and also mob mentality. That's a big one, because if you see 2 people, 3 people doing it, 5 people doing it, 7, 11, then it just gets exponential after that. Everyone does it. So if one person starts hating and that that picture gets some comments, everyone will start jumping on, the train.
God forbid that someone was funny when they were hating on it too. Then it's going to spiral. I feel bad. I think that was me for Nickelback. Like, I think I joined the bandwagon hate for Nickelback in my teens. And then you start hearing some of their songs again, and you're like, you didn't deserve this, man. I'm sorry. Like, Photograph is a great song. Well, I appreciate you coming on here and talking to us about your stuff. I look forward to seeing how your career progresses. I think you're a funny dude. I think that you have a really unique talent in comedy that not a lot of people have. And you don't need me to say that. The cool thing, I mean, we talked about some of the negative parts of TikTok, but the cool thing about it is that if you make something that's golden, it'll rise to the top.
Yeah.
And like, it's going to get its flowers eventually. Like, that's what makes TikTok effective. So like, I really hope to keep seeing what you make. And I'm excited to I know you call them dumb ideas, but I think they're just ideas. They're going to find their way to the phone. And if you ever want someone to pre-approve something, Margaret and I, we send each other videos. We're happy to screen them. we'll send you some of our dumb ideas too. Well, I can't speak for Margaret, but I have plenty of dumb ideas coming through the pipeline. As we, I guess, kind of close, is there, I guess, anything else that you want to say for like how life in medicine has been? How the, I guess, the response has been from your friends at your school? Because I imagine they probably think it's kind of fun.
Oh yeah, I mean, everyone around me loves it. As far as the videos, and of course they make fun of me. They're like, "Oh, this guy's on cloud nine. He's let it all get to his head." Because I troll them too. You know what I'm saying? Like with the video going up now, I'm like, "Don't talk to me anymore. I'm not studying with you guys anymore." Dumb things like that. But see, that was the thing too, is I didn't get any negative backlash, whether it was through the comments. Through 8,000 comments on that video, did I get one person, you know, trying to cancel me? Especially in 2026, right? We just talked about that mob mentality where if you do something cancelable, people will rush to cancel you. Like, or even in person, no one's, came up to me and been like, "Oh, it was offensive" or anything. So it was a surprise to me, honestly, when I was met with, the request to take the video down. As far as life in medicine, first year, it's kind of crazy. I feel like I'm a machine, Like this is the first time I moved out, right? So I'm living alone. So not only am I handling med school, but I'm doing like chores and stuff. Not that I didn't do chores at home, but like I gotta do my own laundry every time now. I gotta get the dishes every time. I gotta make sure I eat every night. Like just before I got on this pod, I was like 10 minutes before the pod started, I was like, I could go do some dishes right now. Hold on, let me lock in real quick. So just super. I think the word of M1 for me is efficiency.
An executive function.
Yeah, literally. And that's what I preach in my studies. Is the first thing I did the first month of med school was like, okay, how can I get as efficient as I can? I don't care about learning the content. I don't care what's the best way I can learn this content. And I did that every block until now. I'm so efficient. Like I could, med school isn't like crazy hard. It's like, okay, I got to get this done, this done, this done. And I know I can get off by now and hang out and do whatever. And
there's your video. 5 most efficient things that Amine did to get this content in my brain.
Yep. But see, then I turned into those guys. I'm sure that video would do well.
and then you'd be a real robot, right? At that point. That's how you become the machine.
Yeah. Literally. Yeah, but as far as anything else I want to mention, if any anesthesia residents are watching this video and want to help me out, with research and whatnot, help me out. I'm a DO. I'm trying to lock in,
Bro. That's so funny. Yeah, I'll be plugging Amin. He's in Nevada. So if you're anesthesia and you're trying to hook him up, that's funny. So my best friend from med school, Daniel, he's an anesthesia resident. So I'll hit him with your line. I don't know. I don't even know what slang I'm trying to use here. But yeah, I'll let you know. He was the guy that recorded all my POV videos when I was doing stuff in med school. So I got you. And you're like,
no, that would be amazing.
Now that you're in the like medicine social media family circle, like you'll see how small it is and how many people have your back. Is it now you're on this podcast? It's produced by Dr. Glockenflecken. You're in our whole ecosystem now. So if you need anything, like there are very few people who know what it's like to both like deal with the backlash of a viral video and then the positives and negatives of it, and also like negative feedback, and then dealing with this like the frustration of complaints. You won't find someone, or it'd be very hard to find someone who doesn't have a story like yours.
Yeah.
So I want to offer to not let it discourage you and keep fighting the good fight. Do what you think is funny, and the crowd will tell you the rest.
Well, first of all, shout out to Dr. Glockenflecken. That was probably one of the first medicine type TikToks I've seen. Funny guy. I watch all his videos. Amazing. I actually didn't know that. Secondly, when problems do arise like this one, it's like another added stress on top of me doing my schoolwork. Like I was in, the last week of the block. We just did repro, which I hated, by the way. But it was last week of the block. I'm having meetings with the school and things are up in the air and I still have to do well on the test. Like that's something that like I feel like not everyone even experiences that, So I'm glad you mentioned that. It's cool. I definitely didn't know that, most of the community did go through the same things. I'm sure I should have assumed, but going through it the first time, it's definitely new.
You never know. It's nothing that you can picture being retold. You have to experience it yourself in a way. But I'm glad you're here, man.
Glad to be here.
So for all the audience here, thanks again for listening. This is kind of like a special episode for us just because we're flying solo today, but we got our amino acids on board, or Amin over here. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thanks to everyone who's been leaving the great feedback. Jake Lute said, "Thank you guys for such a great podcast. You both are so down to earth and make psychiatry interesting to learn about. I also love how you guys are so open about discussing deeper topics." That was from our last one where we do more existential discussion. But honestly, I mean, you're down to earth too, even though they were referring to me and Margaret. So if you're listening again, let us know how the show is. Let us know what you think. If you want us to talk to more like people who are experiencing social media and medicine together, I think these are unique and fun conversations. So we're happy to bring more people on board. If you want to hear more from Amin and his journey in anesthesia and music, we can bring him back to make some music for us. Contact the team directly at howtobepatientpod.com. You can see more from me and Margaret, either on my YouTube at It's Prezro or Margaret at Bad Art Every Day. You can also find full episodes on Spotify and YouTube at How to Be Patient and It's Prezro on YouTube. Thanks again for listening. We're your hosts, Preston Roche and Margaret Duncan, just Preston today. Our executive producers are Preston Roche, Margaret Duncan, Will Flannery, Kristen Flannery, Aaron Corney, Rob Goldman, and Shanti Brooke. Our editor and engineer is Jason Portizo. Our music is by Omer Benzvi. To learn more about our program disclaimer, ethics policy, submission verification, licensing terms, and our HIPAA release terms, go to howtobepatientpod.com or reach out to us at howtobepatient@human-content.com with any questions or concerns. How to Be Patient is a human content production.
How to be patient.
Thank you for watching. If you want to see more of us, or if you want to see, this is Lilac, she's my cat. She's going to be waving her hand at one of the floating boxes, which will lead to more episodes. Lilac, point to the other episodes. Lilac doesn't know what the internet is, but I swear they're there. They probably exist for real. But in the meantime, I'm just going to pet Lilac, and then I'm going to go dance in the background.